Hello there, Matt Hines here with FY Society. I wanted to talk about something real quick today that I think is very interesting, and I think everyone's kind of ignoring a major part of this, and that is Roseanne, who I've long been a fan of, and her support of Trump, which is, surprising to everybody, maybe even her more than anybody. First, a little backstory here. I have kind of an odd but very cool history with Roseanne. In 9th grade or so, we had to do these assessments to determine what type of career we should go into. Mine was like broadcasting, which they didn't anticipate me having a dog. I don't know if you can hear the dog barking right now, but I didn't mention that would just ruin everything. Anyway, so we had to do these assessments, and mine came up as broadcasting, and part of it was we had to interview somebody who was in that field. And I decided I would email Roseanne and just ask her questions, because she had a talk show at that time, or had just ended it. I don't remember. Just asking questions about what it's like to be a broadcaster, what it's like to host a talk show, and so on. And she actually responded, which I thought was really cool. I wish I still had a copy of it to show you, but she answered every question that I had from some kid, right? Prior to that, I had another interaction with Roseanne. I was running a new a talk show website at like 12 years old, because I was a really cool kid. And I had a poll on the website for something like talk show of the 21st century, some silly thing like that. And the visitors to the website said the Roseanne show, her talk show, was the talk show of the 21st century, because it was kind of innovative. She was doing a lot of call-ins from people and things like that. A lot of audience interaction, a lot of oddball guests. A lot of this had to do with the fact that the ratings were really bad for her talk show at that point. She'd been pushed off to the middle of the night in most cities, and couldn't get maybe the guests she wanted to get. I don't know. So they had to kind of innovate. And it was cool. Michael Fishman, DJ from Roseanne, was on there. He was like the one that would handle the phone calls and whatever else. But someone from her show, a producer, reached out to me about the show being named Talk Show of the 21st Century, and was delighted to find out that I was only 12 years old and thought that would make for some good television. So they scheduled an interview with me over the phone. My cousin has a tape of this somewhere. I don't know where I'd find a VCR to even watch it, but I'd like to get my hands on that tape, and I'll be sure to share it here if I do manage to do that. And I was so awkward at that time that at the end of the call, she says, "Matt, we love you." And I'm this awkward 12-year-old, so I said, "Oh, I like you too." I didn't dare say the word love. So anyway, I have this history with Roseanne, which makes me really love her as a person. I did follow her on Twitter for a little while on my personal account. I had to stop because, it got really right-wing. It got really kind of extreme for me. A lot of stuff about Israel, which is fine. She's Jewish, and that's something that's very important to her, and I respect that tremendously. I don't respect the division that was on display there, and I maybe would show you some of her tweets, but she has deleted all of them. Someone, maybe at the network, maybe a co-star, somebody said, "This is bad, you're batshit crazy, and you need to get rid of all of this." So she did. I don't know if that's what happened, but I'm assuming somebody leaned on her a little bit. So anyway, I digress. It was announced that I knew she was a Trump supporter from following her on Twitter. It was announced that her character would also be a Trump supporter, which disappointed me, because if you know anything about the history of Roseanne, the sitcom, she was, and even Roseanne as an individual, always about women's rights, always about civil rights, always about expanding rights, always about working people, jobs, income, regular folks. She once said that the characters on Roseanne were poor, but they weren't, how did she phrase it? They were poor, but they weren't unsophisticated, I think is how she phrased it, which is true, right? They were working class, regular people, but they weren't dumb. They weren't out there falling for bullshit and nonsense from politicians. In fact, one episode, a politician identifies himself, comes to her door, going door to door canvassing for his re-election campaign, identifies himself as a Republican. And here, watch the clip.
Hi, I'm Mike Summers, your state representative. How you doing?
Great.
Good. I'm going door to door trying to get to know my constituents.
Oh, door to door, huh? That takes a lot of time. Why don't you just go down to the unemployment office and see everybody at once?
I hear you. And you're right. We can't let this area's workforce lay idle. That's why bringing in new business is my #1 priority.
How?
Through tax incentives. See, we're going to make it cheaper for out-of-state businesses to set up shop right here in Lanford.
So they get a tax break?
Yeah, that's why they come here.
Well, who's going to pay the taxes that they ain't paying?
Well, you will, but you'll be working. Good, steady employment.
Union wages?
Well, now, part of the reason these companies are finding it so expensive to operate in other locations
So they're going to dump the union so they can come here and hire us at scab wages, and then for that privilege, we get to pay their taxes.
Is your husband home?
Well, he's on the phone trying to keep us from losing our house. Hey, let's talk about that. See, we're broke. I can't even afford to go buy groceries unless it's double coupon day.
You know, we should talk about that. Oh, but I have several houses I have to get to before I quit
Well,
for
hey, great. I'll come with you.
So you see how Roseanne handled that for the Republican politician. So that kind of attitude led to a lot of people being surprised that the character was going to be a Trump supporter. Doesn't surprise me, though, because a lot of people who are working class, who just regular folks, they got duped by Trump. And Roseanne Conner is no exception to that. The character got duped as well as the actress. Now, or the comedian, however you want to define her. It's also important to note that before supporting Trump, Roseanne supported Bernie Sanders. So it's not, regardless of what Trump or anybody on the right thinks, it's not as though Roseanne is suddenly some right-winger conservative at all. She wanted to shake things up. I know a lot of people personally who voted for Trump because they wanted just to blow the whole thing up, and would have voted for Bernie had he been the nominee. So once again, it is my ardent belief that Bernie Sanders would be president today had Hillary Clinton not run, and she shouldn't have run. No one likes her. And that was established a long time ago. She should have run in 2004. She would have won then. She would have had a great 8 years, would have been rid of George W. Bush. Instead, she wanted to bide her time in the Senate, let John Kerry run. And then, of course, at the DNC that year, the convention, Barack Obama gave the keynote address, and he was a state senator from Illinois at that point. He wasn't even in the United States Senate. And he stole the show, and I'm sure Clinton knew at that moment, fuck, I've made a huge mistake. I should have run in 2004 when I would have had a chance. So, boy, I'm just going all over the place here, aren't I? So Clinton ran 2008. Everyone hated her. It was established then for all the right reasons, too, and not because she's a woman. So sick of hearing that, okay? Misogynism, sexism is very much alive and well in this country, and there's no doubt that it played at least somewhat of a role in Clinton's defeat, but to act like it's the primary factors is just silly. She's just an untrustworthy politician. People just don't trust her or like her, and even as a liberal, I can say, I agree. I don't like her or trust her, and I didn't vote for her. Now, I live in a state where it doesn't matter who I voted for. The Republican's going to win no matter what. Trump won my state handily, so I felt okay about not voting for her. If I lived in Ohio or Florida or something, yeah, I would have definitely bitten the bullet and voted for Hillary Clinton. So, Roseanne was a Bernie supporter. Election was stolen, or he lost, or however you want to look at it. She had to find a candidate. It obviously wasn't going to be Clinton. She went with Trump. She liked his style. And I get that. I understand why people appreciate his style. He's outside of the box. He's not your typical politician. What gets me is people, they say he says what he thinks. He's just real. He's just honest. He's the biggest fucking liar on the planet. And if you don't recognize that, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's depressing that people don't see that, or they do see it and they find a way to dismiss it. Oh, he doesn't mean that, he was just joking. He's whatever. They justify it however they want, but he's a crook. Which brings me ultimately to the point here. The most interesting part of Roseanne, the character's support of Donald Trump, is assuming the show gets renewed for another season, assuming everyone comes back, which it sounds like is probably going to happen. The thing got monster ratings. We're going to see Roseanne Conner come to accept that she got conned. She's going to come to accept that Donald Trump is a con artist who duped the middle class. I say this because it's inevitable. Either folks will come to that realization that they've been conned, or they'll forever have their head in the sand and they'll talk about the deep state and how there's some grand conspiracy against him or anything like that. Can't just be that he's a selfish egomaniac piece of shit who doesn't care, who's lazy, who has no intellectual curiosity whatsoever. That can't be it. It's the deep state. It's James Comey. Mueller. I always say Mueller. Mueller. Those Republicans. Yeah. Anyway, so I think that's going to be fascinating to watch, because that show, with the writers, with the team that they have behind it, with the history there, even with Roseanne herself, who maybe has gone a little bit off the deep end, but she's still a real person in there at the core. I believe that, and I think the show reflects that. It's going to be really interesting to see her character come to terms with that, and to see how her and Jackie kind of work their way around that. And if the show sticks around for a few more seasons, it'll be fascinating to see what happens in the 2020, leading up to the 2020 election. Something else is, Roseanne's never been a political show. So I'm kind of surprised that they went that route for the reboot here. But I also appreciate where at least she says she's coming from, which is that families have been divided by politics, by Trump and Hillary and liberal or conservative, whatever. And she's right. We have been divided. I have family members that I don't follow on Facebook anymore, for example. I have family members who told me or a family member who told me that I loved school shootings, and I didn't care about stopping school shootings. I only cared about taking away people's guns. That comment was made to me, by the way, in response to me quoting Trump verbatim on what he said about taking the guns first. So that's kind of interesting. So I appreciate that dynamic, because that's very real, and that's very, very much going on right now in this country. And we'll just see how it shapes out. We'll see how long the character Roseanne continues to support Trump. We'll see when the economy crashes, which it's going to. I'm telling you, for people, it is absolutely going to crash. We'll see if the Conners get to keep their house then. And we'll see if Roseanne Conner wants to blame the deep state for that, or MK Ultra, or whatever nonsense she's been spewing. Or if she'll recognize that Donald Trump is not out to serve the American people. He's not. He is selfish. He is out to serve himself and his own interests, and that's it. So we'll see how long it takes for Roseanne to realize that. I'm excited to see. Regardless, I was excited that the show came back. I don't care that she's a Trump supporter. That's not going to make me stop watching. I've seen some pieces about how it makes you a bad feminist or something like that. It doesn't. It's a sitcom. They're trying to talk about real things. They're going to present both sides of the argument. There's a New York Times piece about just this. You're not a good feminist if you watch the new Roseanne show, because she's sold out completely for the cause of advancement of women. That's bullshit. Even if she did, her crew didn't. The other cast members didn't. The young 24-year-old intern who's desperately trying to become a writer in Hollywood so she can write stories about strong women, she didn't give up on the cause. She's just collecting a paycheck or whatever from working on the Roseanne show, and God bless her for it. And I'm a little envious. I'd love to do that. So there's that. It doesn't make you a bad feminist. Watch all the Roseanne you want. It's not a big deal, and you're supporting a lot more people than just her with that. If nothing else, Jesus Christ, people, you get to see John Goodman on TV every week. Well, it doesn't get any better than that. It just does not get any better than John Goodman. I'm sorry, it doesn't. And Darlene's grown up to be such a nice young woman, so funny, so smart, so strong. Same with Becky. That show is full of strong women. So if you think somehow watching Roseanne makes you a bad feminist, you're just wrong. You're just fucking wrong. And don't fall into that trap. That's just more division, right? You can't support her because we don't agree with her 100%. And you watching the show is supporting her, and we can't do that because we don't agree with her 100%. I'm so sick of that. Stop shutting people down because you don't like what they have to say. Disagree with them. Try to understand them. Try to see where they're coming from. Roseanne doesn't like Trump because he's a racist. Roseanne doesn't like Trump because he defends child molesters. Roseanne doesn't like Trump because he brags about sexually assaulting women. I'm sure she doesn't believe any of that either, and she thinks it's MK Ultra, mainstream media spin, or whatever else. But she likes Trump because he's different, and I get that. Politicians are notoriously buttoned up. They don't answer a question. They're like allergic to answering questions. And this should be a lesson for Democrats. Liberals need to stop pointing the finger and saying all Trump supporters are idiots. A lot of them are, and a lot of them are just brainwashed and they've been duped and whatever else. But that's not the whole story at all. And I know Trump supporters who do not fit that bill whatsoever. Not to mention, a lot of conservatives are only conservative for two reasons. One is abortion. They hate abortion, and they're going to vote for Republicans till their dying day because they hate abortion. The other thing is guns, right? They are terrified that liberals are going to come and take their guns away, and we're not really doing anything to combat that. It doesn't really matter, right? They're going to think that no matter what. We say background checks, they hear confiscation. But it's important to keep that in mind, why people align where they align. Increasingly on the right, of course, racism plays a role. Xenophobia, hatred for immigrants, things like that. It's kind of coming to define the party, which is sad. It's unfortunate for them, but that's not all. That doesn't paint the whole story. That doesn't tell the whole story or paint the full picture, I should say. So anyway, that's what I think is the most interesting part about Roseanne supporting Trump. Is I know we're going to see that episode where she has to admit that she got lied to, that she got duped, that she got conned, and that this guy was clearly only out for himself, for the Russians, and for the wealthy campaign contributors, which should not come as any surprise to anybody. I'm hoping Roseanne, the person, comes around because it is disappointing that she would continue to support a man who, on the surface, stands for everything that she stands against. I doubt Roseanne has become a pedophile or someone who loves sexual assault or any of the other things that I don't think she hates people of color. I don't think she hates immigrants. None of that. So let's all just slow down a little bit. Let's enjoy Roseanne. Let's see how this dynamic shapes out. I like that there's a liberal and a conservative voice on that show, or voices. And I'm fascinated to see where it goes. So let's all just take a deep breath. Let's try to understand that, she's not some radical, hardcore right-winger, teabagger loser. Okay. She got out of the trailer park a long time ago. She's very successful, very smart woman, very strong woman, and I don't care who she supports. She is a feminist icon, and you can't take that away from her. And anybody who tries to doesn't really appreciate her history or the history of that show. Real quick, I'm going to wrap this up because this is getting kind of long, but just to look at the historic view here, just a little bit. Roseanne was one of the first shows to represent regular working people, which used to be Democrats, by the way. The Democratic Party lost working people, working white people, and we can argue all day about why that is exactly. It's the first show to really feature prominent gay characters. Will and Grace gets a lot of credit for kind of changing the way society views homosexuality, but I think Roseanne probably played a much larger role because it's not a show that was trying to target a specific gay audience so much as it was this broad mass appeal show for everybody living in the middle of the country, and suddenly they had gay people on their TV screens. Suddenly they saw the first gay kiss ever on television was on Roseanne. The network was threatening to not run the episode. This was 94, 93 or something. That's how far we've come, right? They had a gay wedding on Roseanne. They've talked a lot about abortion on Roseanne. They've talked a lot about, everything. Just everything. Don't take away what she has done. Don't take away the history of that show, the brilliant work that they've done. It's not that big a deal that she supports Trump. And again, it's almost worth it just to see that come to Jesus moment when she realizes that she's been fucking conned. So anyway, Matt Hines here, FY Society. Hey guys, do us a favor, please, for the love of God, and give us a donation through Patreon. Go click through the Amazon link and do some shopping. Do something to show some support over here. We're ready for it. Okay. Visit us online, fysociety.net. The FY Society store is fy-society.com. A lot of original designs there. We got some awesome new shirts, by the way, that I think people will really like, but you really need to buy them, please. And Facebook, Twitter, all that shit, we're everywhere. So check us out, fysociety.net. Matt Hines signing off, telling you, keep loving Roseanne. Who cares if she's a Trump supporter? Just wait to watch that shit all crash and burn. It's going to be exciting. Bye.